Okay, so for the first month here, I obviously had my flight in, so I put the flight video up, I believe. But yeah, and the flight was chill. Once I got over here and got settled and stuff, I actually got thrown right into training. Well, they said I didn't have to go, but given that I was going to be a teacher and instructor in the program, I figured why not go. So um, after pulling my first all nighter ever, um, I actually stayed up and listened to some of the training. Um, Kind of got my sleep schedule together during the rest of the week. But um, yeah, I listened to the training. That was pretty fun. Got to know the teachers and got acquainted with people. So um, that was pretty much the first week in a nutshell. I got sent to my first class on the first Thursday that I was here, just to be introduced to the kids and make connections and um, just show my face to them because to that point, only one of the missionaries had been here, of the three of us that are here now. So yeah, I enjoyed getting to know the environment. I'm pretty good with directions and stuff. I don't really get lost easily, so just like learning where to go, what places I would be going to often, things like that. That was also part of the first week, getting to know the area around me, what stores were there, and what I could do at the different places. That was also pretty cool. So when I got here, the first native speaker that was already here, Gabriel, you'll see him soon enough. Gabriel was here already, but Gabriel's Brazilian. He's not like American or English or anything, so he's not technically a true native speaker. Which once I got here made me like the foremost expert on English almost in the whole company, which is kind of a interesting position to be in. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience of being like the best at something in some large group, but like every question or whatever about people's talking always was routed to me, especially during this first week of training when we were all together. People would say things and they'd be like, "Oh, do you say this or that?" And then everyone turns and looks at me, and I'm like, "Well, I say this, but that might just be America." So yeah, one of the funny things about English is that you quickly learn what is English and then what is British and what is American. And it's a kind of a running joke, honestly, as an English teacher, which I kind of enjoy. So yeah, there was also that. Then I got into church on Sabbath, the first Sabbath here. Church was it was interesting. I mean, we have a nice small church here. It's an international church, so um, they do all the singing in English, but there's translation between English and Ukrainian or English and Russian, depending on who the speaker and translator is. So yeah, the first Sabbath I was actually taken to the front of the church, somewhat unexpectedly, but I kind of sensed something like that might happen. So yeah, I was sitting down. And he's like, "So you'd like to ask Raymond to come out?" And once he said that, I was like, "Okay." I figured this was coming. So went up there, said a few words. People were like smiling and looking like, "Oh, that's a new person here." Then I've gotten to know people over time and stuff. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. There is another American lady there. Actually, her name's Linda. She's from North Carolina, I believe, and yeah, she's kind of like a grandma to the church. She's really sweet, really friendly, really helpful. Um, she apparently has been here for 15 years or so and still actually doesn't know a lot of Russian. She understands some, but she doesn't really try to speak it. Now, of course, language learning in your 60s and in your 20s and teens are two different things, but it's just kind of a funny thing. Like, older people that come here don't necessarily pick up the language. Um, so, yeah, that was week one. Transitioning into week two, So when I got here, I guess the first thing that was noticed was like, oh, like you look sporty. So they're like, oh yeah, we have soccer. Do you want to play soccer? So my first Sunday here, I actually went out to play soccer with one of the guys that was part of the training classes in the first week. So went on the train, rode all the way down to the station, got out, and we were looking for each other for a few minutes. We found each other, and then we went to play. I met the guy there. They're like a church group that plays there, so that was really cool. The pastor was out there, and they're like, "Yeah, don't hurt the pastor. That can get you kicked out the church." But yeah, the pastor was out there, which was pretty cool to see. Played that for like 3 hours or so until the end. There wasn't a fight, but like the guys started getting aggressive, and two of the dudes, they were younger guys, like their dad just pulled them and said, no, we're going, because they were getting upset, because like it's a big deal, and sometimes emotions get hyped, and then people are like, oh man, sorry, like this was a bad day, don't worry about it, it'll be fine in the future. Sad side note, that was the first and last day I played with them, and I think I might ever get to play with them, because we do speaking clubs on Sundays, which means that I don't have that time to go out there and play with those guys, which sucks because those guys were great. And there's one guy, Victor, that like he was, I guess, the best English speaker there. So he just told me a few different things about like the people there and how they play. But yeah, that was a fun experience, honestly, while I had it. And then promptly after doing that, I went home and relaxed and got a message from a guy, Sasha. Sasha was one of the guys that I met also during the first week at the Friday night speaking club. And he was like, hey, do you want to play basketball? Because we had a bit of a talk on the Friday night, and he said, yeah, do you want to play? So I said, sure, why not? Not really considering that I'd played 3 hours of soccer already that day, but anyway, uh, I went and I played basketball for 3 more hours. So one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me happened on this day, involving this girl that I don't even know like how I noticed, but anyway, me and Sasha met up and we walked over to the park, and on our way over, um, I passed this girl. I don't know, it was a girl with black hair, which a lot of girls here, at least not to my knowledge, have a lot of black hair. But anyway, like her face was in my mind because I'm good with faces. So we get to the park and I was playing there, and then she was walking back by the park while I was like shooting around warming up, and I looked over and I was like, okay. So then we were warming up, and then a few other guys came and started shooting around, and then eventually we got games going. Um, After some point in time, like these three girls came out to start watching the games. I don't know if they knew friends. I don't know if they saw me out there. I don't know what was happening, but they were just sitting there, literally just watching. So that happened. And I was playing. So the courts here are, I mean, well, one, they're outdoor. The court's kind of uneven. They also don't really call too many violations and things, so that took some getting used to. But there were also these dudes, these two guys that were just killing it with these crazy like one-legged leaning shots, running full speed. Like it looked so out of control, but these dudes were getting buckets. So I was like, my gosh, this is gonna be a long day. But anyway, this girl walked by while I was playing again, and I looked, and I was just, and she actually stand there. She stood for a few seconds and like looked, and I was like, is she looking at me or like Sasha? Um, so I looked over at Sasha. Sasha wasn't really paying attention, honestly. He was focused on the game. But I was like, the same girl. That like has to be. So anyway, we played. We finished up. I got a few wins, but I got a loss. But I think I wore a LeBron shirt that day, so they're like, "Hey, LeBron, like, good play with you and stuff like that." Yeah, they just started giving me the ball by the end because I was in better shape than most people out there. So I was just running still when people weren't running. But yeah, that was that. And then we finished up basketball and got ready to go home, stopped by a store to get, I think, Gatorade or something, because by that point, my legs were barely working. I think the only thing I was able to do at that time was walk. Like, I don't think running would have been an option even if there was like an attempted robbery or something on me. Like, it was just rough. But yeah, we got the Gatorade, and then we were walking back to, where we came from. And then I saw this girl for a fourth time, and then when she saw, and I guess by this point she recognized me, although I guess with me being one of the few black people around, it might be easier to do so. She like looked me up and down, and then like smirked, and then kept walking. And I turned to Sasha and was like, "Sasha, that's literally the girl I was telling you about." Because funny enough, we were just talking about like seeing a girl, and he was like, "Yeah, I had seen a girl a couple of times." Um, and yet we ran to her a fourth time, and I was like, okay, that's weird. Um, Now, as far as follow up questions, no, I did not go back to investigate or like try to find her or whatever. I've played basketball there once since then, but didn't see her. Wasn't really too concerned about it, honestly, because, like I said, language barrier and all those things. But yeah, that happened. And then the first week of classes, they kind of eased me in and helped me get around and stuff like that. I was with Gabriel, he was leading me around. Uh, and then on Thursday, to get dinner because I had nothing to cook, we went to Domino's. So I was like, okay, Domino's, pizza. I feel like getting something on the side. So I got the cinnamon bites. And I was like, okay, cinnamon bites, pretty simple, hard to go wrong with, I guess. Yeah, that it went wrong. Hey yo, Domino's in Ukraine really tried me, calling these cinnamon bites. Where is the cinnamon? Um, I don't really know what their idea of cinnamon bites are, but that's not it. Um, so yeah, and then during that second week, I also did advertising for the ELC. So I was like outside handing out flyers. Um, some people just looked at me like, okay. I think some people took flyers because they're like, oh, well, you must be American. So if you're there, then it's probably legit. But one day I was talking to my mom actually, and that was the day that I gave out the most flyers. So I guess when people heard me speaking English, they're like, oh, he has good English. So this must be a good school. um, but yeah, so I did advertising. That was pretty fun. Just standing out there. There were like three or four people advertising also at the same place. So we were like competing for people's attention, but I didn't really say anything. I just looked at people because when you're me and drawing obvious visual attention, there's not really much more you have to do. People just have to take it from you. So yeah, that was that. Then after my first week here, I got actually Cyber School by Gerlinda. So I did that. That was pretty easy. It's easy to handle a class and do public speaking for me. And then we had like a afternoon hangout at her house, which I think was pretty cool. Like, we sat, we talked, we watched a movie, but I don't know. I think I was just tired and I like fell asleep for the back half of the movie. But yeah, met like this French couple, which immediately made me have to dig into French. Um, so yeah, side note, I hear at least like six languages on a somewhat regular basis here. Um, in Ukraine, yeah, you think like, oh, it's Ukraine, you just speak Ukrainian here. But aside from English, Russian, and Ukrainian, Gabriel, being Brazilian, speaks Portuguese. He also studied in Argentina, so he knows Spanish. And because I know Spanish, he talks to me in Spanish. And then there's another guy, Isaac, who is from, I think, Togo. Yeah, he's from Togo. And he speaks French as his like primary language, or that's the first language he learned. So he knows French. And then there's a Ghanaian group that speaks Twi, which is, and there's like a group of them. So they use it to communicate to each other. So, like, when I'm here, especially at church, I'm just hearing all kinds of things. On the car ride over to Linda on that day we spent time at her house, we were speaking four, oh no, five different languages in the car because it was English, Ukrainian, Russian, Spanish, and French all in the car at the same time. Um, just madness. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And then that was the end of week two. So then week three started off with soccer again. No basketball this time, but got out there early on Sunday morning to do a soccer exercise. And then later in the day, we had our health expo. So this health expo was put on by the church, but we were supporting it. So Gabriel and I headed out there. On our way there, we got stuck in traffic, and this dude literally jumped off the bus with, like, it was hot, so the bus driver opened the doors, but we were driving through traffic. A dude jumped off the bus in the middle of traffic. Um, People are just bold here like that, I guess. But yeah, the health expo was fun. That video is also to come. That actually is done editing. I just have to upload it. I played Jenga there. Those of you that know me know I'm not really a too competitive person. But played an intense game of Jenga. I didn't eat that stress, but it was kind of fun. The guy was like fun to interact with, so that was nice. I was teaching classes pretty much on my like normal role by this point. So we don't really teach as like absolute teachers. We're kind of like stand-in native speakers. So we just help them communicate. So we talk to them and listen, correct, and stuff like that. The classroom experience was pretty nice, though. Honestly, it's not really a traditional classroom experience. Like they get homework and tests and stuff, but like I'm not there for most of that. I'm just there for my part of it, which is my activities and stuff that I bring. So that's the classroom experience. But I enjoy it. I love the kids. The teenagers are fun. I don't know. I kind of like Ukrainian teenagers. I like their humor. They're pretty funny, honestly. And then adults, like, they work hard, which I think is nice. Like the adults that are in the school and in these programs, they are actually putting in the work to learn English. And yeah, it's a pretty special thing to be a part of, I feel like. So then the end of week three, Saturday evening, I went on a walk with Sasha. So we went through the woods near his house. Went out. I got a pretty nice panorama of the scene. And then after that, we had dinner with him and his wife. So um, his wife is 20, and he's 25. So yeah, people I guess get married young here. I mean, most of my friends are getting married now too. But yeah, it was. I was surprised. Like his wife, who you will catch a glimpse of in the Thanksgiving video, is 20, and I thought she was like older than him, which is crazy. But anyway, yeah, so that was pretty cool. She cooked the dinner. We sat down and ate and talked. She speaks Ukrainian and almost only Ukrainian. I at that point really had nothing in my arsenal, so I was just at a loss of what to say. So he did translating and whatnot. But she's really sweet. Sasha's he makes so many jokes. Sasha's like he's a legitimately funny dude. and he keeps things light, which is pretty nice to have as a friend over here. Um, Also, when I got back, I went to pick up this projector that I no, I plugged in the projector that I already bought because I have my Xbox with me, and I was like, well, I need something to play it on. I tried this projector, and yeah, it was not the move. I thought I could finesse the system, but it was not Friday, so the finesse was not successful. But I ended up buying a TV, which cost a kind of nice chunk of change, but it's a nice small TV hanging out over here. Week 4 was the Thanksgiving that you guys, well, were just told about. So Sasha and Diana and I were downtown for this, like, they call it Thanksgiving. Obviously, this is 2 months ago, so this was in September, but it's put on by the Hope Channel here. So the church, like, kind of put on this giant like Christian thing downtown. They shut down the whole street downtown. They do that every week, but on this week there was like the special events for it. So one funny thing that I didn't put in the video, maybe I should, but there's this picture of the Last Supper at this restaurant they went to. It's called not Noodles and Co. That's Wash U. No, actually, I think it is Noodles and Co. But there's this funny picture of the Last Supper, but with noodles. After that, fourth week was pretty straightforward. It was kind of sucky because I got sick. So my room was very dusty, and I sensed this from day one, but I didn't really investigate it. But it turns out, yeah, this thing was mad dusty. So I was banished from my room while Gabriel, shout out to you, Gabriel, and the cleaning lady just went to work in here, and they were cleaning this thing out for I think like 2 hours. But yeah, once they got all the dust down and stuff, I could actually breathe properly and stuff. And they're like, "Oh, I see you got sick, and we don't need you getting sick." So they're very skeptical of my clothing choice. But I told them I'll be fine. It was just the dust and other factors that added up to make it happen. But yeah, that happened. Of course, this happens on the same week I was assigned to write a sermon. Um, so yeah, Pastor 2 weeks after meeting me decided that I guess because I'm a missionary, he's like, "Hey, can you do a sermon?" So I was like, "Sure." Um, so I got sick the day that I was planning on starting to write it, which threw off everything. So the sermon I ended up giving, I wrote in pretty much 24 hours between Thursday and Friday night, um, which I mean, honestly, it just came to me and it happened. Um, the girl that translated for me said that like it spoke to her personally. So like it's always great to hear things like that and to know that like these efforts aren't in vain and things like that. But yeah, also during this week, I cracked my phone screen, which is still cracked. Thankfully, not over the camera, so you guys can still see me properly. But if you can see my phone screen, it's struggling right now. And I almost bought a case for it that week, and I was like, it'll be fine. And then I was in the bathroom, and I thought I put it in my pocket, but instead it was only halfway in my pocket and then fell onto its face. And what happened happened. I also further cracked it last week moving tables, but yeah, it's hanging in there by like barely anything. There's like an X on my screen right now. Um, but yeah, and I also that week made a video for travel, which for those of you at Andrews, you guys saw that video. So yeah, that was kind of nice just to like check in with people, and apparently people like went crazy over and stuff, which is crazy to me. But it's also kind of crazy how far removed in a way I feel from being at Andrews, given that not only did I graduate, but like I also was there for 2 months over the summer. But man, it feels like really far away. But definitely miss that place. Hoping to visit at some point, but we'll have to see how that works out. But anyway, that's the first 4 weeks of my time here. There are 8 more weeks to cover, and I'm in the middle of week 13, so you guys will be hearing about all this and more pretty soon. You guys have a good one.